idea now.
You're on your side. They drove to Las Vegas.
I guess that's what I
I would like to start my presentation really quick with a short quote from a poet who has been sort of an unofficial guide on my senior project. Charles Figge, I highly recommend to check him out. But he said, "The honest man must be a perpetual renegade. The life of an honest man, a perpetual infidelity. The man who wishes to remain faithful to truth must make himself perpetually unfaithful to all the continual, successive, untiring, renaissance errors." This was true for me in my senior project. I changed about 10 times, and I had to keep on being unfaithful over and over again, which was pretty fun for me, maybe not so fun for my advisor. So to Dr. Santos, I say honestly, thank you for being patient with me in my rebirth over and over again. I entitled my senior project, Marx, Nietzsche, and Kant, Modern Day Icarus. Let me warn you, Icarus, to take the middle way. These are the words of Daedalus, a character in ancient Greek mythology. Daedalus and his son Icarus had found themselves stuck in a labyrinth Daedalus himself had created. Convinced that his ingenuity could change nature itself, those are his own words, Daedalus had the clever idea to create wings to fly away out of the labyrinth towards freedom. He collected some feathers and stuck them to his and his son's arms with wax. Before taking off, Daedalus warned his son Icarus with these words, not to fly too high, so that he would be safe. This warning being left unheeded, Icarus flew so high that the sun melted the wax of his wings and sent him spiraling down to his death. For me, this ancient story serves as a metaphor for the current situation of philosophy. As in all times, we find ourselves stuck in a labyrinth created by our own hands. This is what the church has originally called original sin. Like Icarus and Daedalus in the labyrinth, we find ourselves discontent, confused, and unhappy. Provoked by this awareness, we seek freedom through our own ingenuity or creativeness. One route for this freedom is philosophy. We create wings of our own through abstraction and flying upwards towards a better perspective. Especially when it's compared to the other sciences, philosophy is, most times by its very nature, focused on this higher perspective. A certain degree of detachment, theory, and flight is needed for its efficacy. Beginning from this preference, philosophers have sought to find a perspective of the gods, separate from the finitude of everyday life. In order to achieve this advantageous viewpoint, many philosophers have locked themselves into libraries, academies, and monastic cells. From this perspective, seemingly detached from the world of lived experience, they created libraries worth of explanations of God, man, and the world. Beginning in the 17th century, a new strand of philosophy grew in prominence and potency. This strand, beginning unbeknownst to him, to our friend René Descartes, took this theoretical tendency to new heights by seeking certainty above all. Without heeding Daedalus' warning to take the middle way, not flying too high or too low, these philosophers have claimed an omniscience of their own, based on the ego and its ever-changing opinions and fancies. As I've already stated, this elevated perspective is necessary for truly philosophical discourse, but to what extent? At what point do we fly too high? I began this journey talking about our good friend René, and then I walked the reader through both the problems he faced and his proposal to solve those problems, mainly the cogito and the division of primary and secondary qualities. After this short recapitulation of his thought, I continued to three thinkers who to varying degrees received the world handed on to them from Descartes and carried it into new directions: Karl Marx, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Auguste Comte. I in no way intend to imply that these three thinkers were influenced by Descartes alone. Rather, I hope to demonstrate that they are the fruition of a turn towards the self and the split between matter and spirit, born out of his philosophy 2 centuries earlier. Respectively, each thinker took this newer current of philosophy into new sectors of the world. Marx, the economic and political, Nietzsche, the moral, and Kant, the epistemological. So what now? Does the world proposed by Marx, Nietzsche, or Kant correspond to reality? Is Marx right? Is the whole of history some inevitable march towards working towards ultimate freedom and egalitarianism? Is Nietzsche right? Is there no real world? Am I left to fend for myself? Should I rule over those around me? Is Kant right? Is science the only way to any real knowledge and the basis for the way we should rebuild society after the death of God and the King? I'm willing to accept that these guys explain portions of reality, but I sure as hell am not willing to accept that they explain me. The main problem with the project of modernity is not a moral, theological, or metaphysical one. It is firstly an existential one. In modernity, philosophers become great world creators like Tolkien, Spielberg, or George R.R. Martin. In the comfort of their studies, separated from the other, thinkers like Descartes, Marx, Nietzsche, and Kant create grandiose schemes and fantasies which claim to explain the whole of reality with pinpoint accuracy. Where do we go from here? This question is firstly a personal one. I myself have begun a journey similar to that of Monsieur Descartes. I've spent 4 years in seminary, free from the hustle and bustle of the outside world, free from bills, free from dating, free from a normal job. I spent my days in contemplation and study. Even here, where all seems to be pointed towards the perspective of the gods, up with Icarus, there is an ever-present lead weight holding me down. I'm not alone. I hear the alarming sound of someone knocking at my door. I smell the body odor of an 18-year-old who hasn't showered after sports. And I encounter people that think differently than I do. These things make it clear that the world that I create at my desk is not always correct. This presence makes me painfully aware of 2 things. I'm not alone, and I don't have all the answers. In the face of this tragedy, we must find a new path. Face to face with things outside of myself, I thirst for meaning. But what is the method to overcome, or what is the method to come to understand this meaning? If the object dictates the method, what is the method to answer this ultimate question? What is the meaning of life? The method imposed by these questions is what Luigi Giussani calls the religious sense. This method does not imply a strict religious observance like rigorous Judaism, Islam, or Protestantism. Rather, by the term, Giussani proposes that to be religious is to affirm and develop the original attraction to reality. No matter how much we suppress it, we all have this undeniable desire for truth, goodness, and beauty. Surprisingly, our friend Karl Marx can attest to this fact himself. In a letter to his wife, who was really beautiful, I have it. Oh, I'm sorry. In a letter to his wife, Jenny, who is really beautiful, truly, Karl Marx wrote, "The moment you are absent, my love for you shows itself to be what it is, a giant, in which are crowded together all the energy of my spirit and all the character of my heart. It makes me feel like a man again, because I feel a great passion, and the multifariousness in which study and modern education entangle us, and the skepticism which necessarily makes us find fault with all the subjective and objective impressions, all of these are entirely designed to make us all small and weak and whiny. But love, not love for the Feuerbach type of man, not for the metabolism, not for the proletariat, but the love for the beloved, and particularly for you, makes a man again." This letter, along with the huge collection of his poetry, attests to something profound in the person of Karl Marx. Surely this man could not have really believed that he was only a small bit in the large, unavoidable stream of history. He was aware there was something more, and he desired to attain it like no one else. The only fail-safe formula to receive this ultimate meaning of reality is to live the real, to live this attraction, to give up our idols, as Miwash was talking about yesterday. Life is a hunger, thirst, and passion for an ultimate object, which looms over the horizon and yet always lies beyond it. When this is recognized, man becomes a tireless searcher. Only wonder experienced in front of the mystery of the other will provoke a truly interesting philosophy that corresponds to lived experience in its totality. With wonder as a starting point, clarity, distinctness, and certainty are no longer important. What now becomes important is fidelity to this experience of reality. The more one lives at this level of attentiveness with the other, the more he will notice the logos behind everything. This word will point him upwards, beyond itself, in Greek, ana logos. This is why reality could be summoned in one word, analogy. The Christian proposal is that there was a man from Galilee 2,000 years ago who claimed to be that logos. He claimed to be meaning. And he showed us the way to our true home, to our destiny. And that is what Icarus was searching, that's what Marx was searching, that's what Feuerbach, that's what all these crazy guys were searching, is for this right here. And guess what, guys? We have it. So that's my project.
Okay, we're tied over. I think we can slip one in here. Yes.
Wow. Thank you, Patrick. As close as we are in French, I actually haven't heard any of your project yet. Really. But at the same time, I have your life and your experience. Like, it's refreshing for me. Of just like remember my struggles that never really ended with philosophy. This disconnect of something like lofty, this idea that we generate. Like I said, in a room reading a book, it's like how does it correspond to reality? So thank you. That's been refreshing for me. What made you choose Marx, Nietzsche, and
Comte, yeah. Actually, Will Goebel, about a month ago, gave me a book that was called The Drama of Atheist Humanism. And it talked about these guys, these three in particular, and really, talking to Dr. Santos as well, I could have talked about any philosopher. But these guys particularly were interesting to me, especially because I never really learned much about it. But that book kind of helped me because I was already talking about Nietzsche and all kinds of other stuff. I didn't know where I was going with my project, but that kind of gave me a way to go. So, yeah.
Great job. Great job. Congratulations. Good job.
Thank you.